Most dads aren't angry, they're overwhelmed, and no one ever taught us how to feel stress before it comes out sideways. Whether you're outside grilling, changing diapers, or just trying to catch a breath, the Young Dad Podcast is your spot for real conversations about fatherhood, manhood, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jay, and I sit down with dads, experts, and everyday people to talk about the joys, the struggles, and the lessons that come with raising kids and building a meaningful life. From mental health and relationships to faith, family, and the funny stuff only dads understand. YDP is here to remind you that you're not doing this alone. So grab a juice box, grab a snack, kick back, and join the conversation because fatherhood doesn't come with a manual, but it should come with a podcast. This is one of those conversations that explains why so many dads are doing their best and still feel like something's off. Duncan, when dads come to you saying, I just need to be more patient, what's usually actually going on underneath?
That's a really good question. What's usually going on underneath, in my experience, is that they're overwhelmed and they want to be more patient. They want to be more calm. They want to respond instead of react when situations come up. But they're finding that most of the time, maybe they're able to do that. But then once things turn a certain corner, that it's almost like those skills are, they're like not available anymore. So um, a lot of it comes from it, in my experience, what I see a lot is we're just overwhelmed and we don't have a lot of guidance. We don't have a lot of, coaching or um, tools, skills that really work and help us to show up, regulated, calm, with that kind of, um, fatherly air when things really when the stress really hits, when things sort of get really pushed beyond what is comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. And it can be really easy to get there, right? Like, it's not a hard place to get to for most men, but it's like we try at the same time. Like, we try to do what we can handle, like, within reason, and then it just gets to a point to where it's like nothing's moving, nothing's shaking, nothing's, changing at all around me. And so now the body's like, "Okay, well, we've tried to to wait this out, be patient for whatever, but now it's just at a point to where now it's just pop, right?"
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I've felt that. That's very real. I think most dads have felt that. We have
Absolutely.
a vision of how we want to conduct ourselves and, how we want to think of ourselves and how we probably are most of the time. But then we get pushed, we get into stress. And this is where the body, the nervous system takes over.
Mhm.
And without getting too deep into it, there's a really, really ancient part of the nervous system that governs how we respond to stress. And patterns in that part of the nervous system are formed really early in childhood for us, for the dads. Um, and we form those patterns um, out of a need to protect ourselves from something that's overwhelming us, or from something that doesn't feel safe or doesn't feel right. And that's the nervous system working perfectly. That's not a defect. We're not defective because we have these patterns. This is totally normal, 100%. And this impacts pretty much all of us, dads, moms, everyone, people. Um, but what happens is those patterns never resolve. We never get to complete those sort of emotional experiences of our childhood. And those patterns stick with us and they start getting in the way. They start getting in the way of having deeper connections with our partners or with our kids or with ourselves. They start getting in the way of, um, feeling aligned with our purpose or um, being able to connect. And there's not a lot of the advice out there is very heady. It's very sort of intellectualized, and conceptual. But these patterns They exist in layers of us that are sort of beneath the intellectual layers. They exist in the body. They exist in our belief systems, which come from what we feel like we know.
Yeah. No, and I think it's important to remember, like, when you're mentioning the body here, like, it's the you can think of it like a small child, right? Let's say a small child had something happen to them between ages birth through 3, right? They're typically not gonna remember that, but they could be having a response come age, 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever, but they don't but it's oh my gosh, but it's hard to understand where that response is coming from. Because those stress responses start in the body first. They start within us first before they actually come outward. Let me just introduce you for a second. Duncan, your dad, husband, artist, somatic men's work facilitator, and co-founder of MELD, a men's wellness organization focused on helping men get out of their heads and back into their bodies. Duncan, you work with fathers and men to resolve stress responses and protective patterns that were built earlier in life, patterns that once helped but now get in the way of connection, patience, and presence at home. One of your core beliefs is simple but powerful. The problem isn't the man, it's the model we were given. And so, talking about that, a lot of dads think they're broken, right? I think that's super common where we think, okay, we're the problem, we're the issue, we're broken, we need to fix things, we need to change, we need to do this, that, and the other. But what do you mean when you say like the problem isn't the model. The problem is the model, not the man, especially for fathers.
Yeah. So most, if not all men and women also learn growing up that men ought to behave in a certain way. They ought to look like this. They ought to respond like this. Um, they, if a problem comes up, they need to just handle it, and if you ask for help, then that means, unconsciously, these are beliefs that a lot of us hold. If you ask for help, it means you haven't come by it honestly, so you have to do it on your own. You have to be strong, don't cry, provide and protect, which, that's a very natural male, tendency or desire to provide and protect. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but if we are only doing this hard, um, lone wolf kind of isolated, overworked, overwhelmed character, then it doesn't leave a lot of space for, feeling good. It doesn't leave a lot of space for connection. It often comes with a lot of distance. And we end up feeling, um, like our needs kind of come last on the list. And, we have to take care of everyone and everything around us. And then once everything around us is taken care of, then we get to relax and take care of ourselves. But a lot of times that never comes. So this is the model that we've inherited. This is what we learn early on, unconsciously. You were talking about like very young children before, like ages 0 to 3. A lot of our imprinting comes from that time, and it comes from
Mm.
our parents, it comes from our caregivers, it comes from our teachers, it comes from the culture, it comes from society around us. It comes from movies, it comes from books, it comes from, you wouldn't believe the stories that I'm reading to my son, or, am approaching reading to my son. And I look at them, I'm like, this is outdated and not really what I'm wanting to pass along. Um, it's out there. It's the paradigm. It's the dominant paradigm. And so when we have inherited that, that's the model that we have to go on. We want something else in little ways. We want to vary and go off the script that we've been given, because we can feel that it's not working. We can feel that the script is broken or outdated or not really getting us where we want to go, or not allowing us to be who we need to be or who we want to be. And we sort of feel like, I've certainly felt this in my life, we feel sort of adjacent to where we want to be. You can see it kind of, it's there, it's not far off, but we always end up kind of parallel to it and not embodying it. So that's what I mean when I say the model is broken. men are not bad. Men are not broken. Men are not the problem. It's this sort of systemic failure that's not really any one person's fault. We inherited it from generations before. They inherited it from the generations before them. So I like to take a really compassionate approach working with men. Like, we're not bad. We're not defective. Um, we're certainly not evil. We all want the same thing, which is connection and depth and to feel fulfilled and feel satisfied. But this model doesn't really physically allow that. It doesn't allow for our biology to work the way that it needs to work. And we end up sort of bearing the brunt of that, and then also sort of being blamed for the problems of the world. And there's not a lot of sympathy for the struggles of men out there, but it's the men are not the problem. It's this thing that we've inherited. And while it's not our fault necessarily, and that's not to say that, like, when you mess up, you take responsibility. Like, that's part of being a man also, I would say. But inheriting this system it's not our fault, but it is then our responsibility if we want to do something about it. And if we want to make something change, then it is on us to do that. It's not going to happen out there and then trickle down to us. We are the change that we want to see in the world.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that, kind of, to tie it back together, where it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility, right? We didn't ask for it, but we are responsible for carrying that weight now. And if we want to see change, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. It's like we get to a point to where we can't just stay, like, silent about it, or we just can't, like, wait it out or patience it out or whatever, right? Like, we need to take action, right? That's how we're built. That's how men are. It's like, okay, I can try to wait and be patient for, a few hours maybe and stuff, but it's like after a little bit, it gets to a point to where it's like, how have you not moved on? How have you not process through that? Like, we gotta get on our horse and get going, right? And I think that's just us as men. It's like we only have so much time to sit and ruminate on something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly in modern life, things move quickly and we want to be there for it. I would say if we slow things down. So I teach a process. I teach
Mm,
and I teach it's a system for expanding your functional capacity, especially under stress. And what frequently happens is our system is running us. We're stressed. Our survival physiology takes over. Some variation of fight, flight, freeze, some combination of those. We are, um, you know, triggered into a state where we're no longer in control.
mhm,
So the first thing that has to happen when the first thing that has to happen is we have to recognize that that's what's happening, right? Because we can't just keep going the way that we're going and expect something to change. So we recognize, man, I'm feeling really some kind of way right now. And so we teach how to slow down, how to get honest about what it is that is going on. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling fear. Um, and then we feel that. We allow that to sort of be acknowledged because that's what these feelings really want. They want to be seen. They want to be heard.
mhm,
And you can do this alone. It's also really powerful when you do this, like, with other men in brotherhood. Um, and you start to see that, like, oh, the thing that I was quietly struggling with alone at home, these other guys, they are experiencing something remarkably similar. The stories are all different, but the underlying drivers are really, really related. They're really similar. And then we get to operate on this depth, on this deeper level with some other men, creating these relationships, creating what we biologically crave, which is co-regulation. That's one of the most powerful ways to downregulate out of a stressful experience is to co-regulate with your cat, with your dog, with another person, with a brother who understands, or a close friend, or a family member, or someone from your community that is just willing um, to go there with you. And it feels a little risky at first, and we call that assertive vulnerability. It feels like a risk. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to take that risk because I know on the other side there's just this ocean of openness and depth that I get to start reintegrating back into my life.
Yeah. And I love that because it kind of goes along with the principle, right? Where you can't think your way into calm, right? You do need other people.
Yeah.
Where most things are gonna live, most advice that we've ever gotten is just gonna live in our head. But the awareness that we're talking about here, us being aware of our emotions, being aware of our stuff, it doesn't alone change the behavior, right? We could be aware of it all day long. We could be aware that, oh, I drink, 2/5 of vodka every day. That doesn't change you from not drinking, right? And so really is what you're talking about here more of a like bottom up approach that you're working through, this kind of example that you're going through, or is this a different thing that you've been talking about?
No, that's so awesome because we talk about a bottom up approach all the time. It is a bottom up approach. And first, I guess maybe your listeners are familiar with this, but the top down approach is the cognitive, sort of intellectual. Here's what I should do. But the body sort of says, "Oh yeah, that's great, but we can't." Or maybe it
Yeah.
works for a little while. Maybe for a short time, we're inspired and motivated to integrate these differences sort of into our day, into our
Mhm.
strategy. And a lot of times we end up falling back on
Yeah.
just our default operating system. And so, in order to access the default operating system, which, as we were saying, exists below the level of the intellect, we come in through the body. And so, our approach is somatic, it's based in the body. Um, the body is always in the present, and the body is always telling the truth. You can always down regulate from a stressful response by leaving the questions, the anxiety, the whatever is running you, and find something pleasant in your body, or just feel the motion of the breath in your chest and feel what the physical sensation, drop your awareness down into what the physical sensation of that expansion and contraction feels like, and notice your ribs moving. Notice the muscles outside your ribs moving. Notice what it feels like to have the shirt pulling on your skin. Feel your back up against the seat. How do you know that your back is touching the seat? Get really granular with the physical sensations, and step out of the intellectual um should the intellectualization of what you think should happen, and just be with what is. And that's a very simplified version of what we teach and how we help men to start building this fluency with their body. And I want to give a shout out to polyvagal theory, which was founded by Dr. Stephen Porges. He discovered through a lot of research that 80% of the information in our system travels from the body up to the brain. So when we have an experience, first we have a physical experience, then we have an emotional experience, and then we have a cognitive intellectual experience. Here's what I think I should do. But our body is on the front lines, and physically there are earlier places we can come in and intervene before sort of it gets to the point of thinking about what we should do. Because when we're thinking about it, you said thinking about it is subject to our patterns and our belief systems. And all of those are shaped by our stories and our experiences, which are ultimately controlled by and living in our nervous system, how we're going to respond in that way. So the bottom up approach is addressing the body, sort of letting the mind do what the mind does, but focusing the awareness on the body and letting that inform what's happening to us, being vulnerable about what the truth of our experience is. And vulnerable, that word vulnerability gets like a bad rap. People associate it with weakness, but vulnerability, if you're talking about like being vulnerable in battle, then, I get where that context comes from, but it takes a much stronger man to be able to face the thing that is, controlling him for decades than it does to just keep suppressing and stuffing it down and, working harder and taking on more in order to get to this sort of imaginary happy place where then everything is going to be okay. It feels risky, but the strength and vulnerability it cannot be overstated. And it makes you stronger. It expands your window of tolerance. It makes you able to to face more and to have less sort of throw you off your path and throw you out of your regulated state. So vulnerability is actually strength. And I feel like the demonization almost of vulnerability is part of the model that we've inherited that is crap and needs to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of demonization of those things, right? Usually what you're saying of like that regulation piece and being in control of oneself, right? Because that's it's supposed to be like taboo, right? We're not supposed to be in control of ourselves. We're not supposed to be able to change our behavior, right? Because we're supposed to be built to be stressed, to at a point to where we can't reason because of all the stress and the dysregulation happening, and to be not so motivated, but more so like um where we're motivated, we're not motivated, but we're more so we're like incentivized, right? It's like we're incentivized to do this or to do that or to do this or do that because that's gonna give you your next like hit of dopamine, right? That's gonna give you your next big thing. Um, but I love the approach here because it really does tie in that, stress lives in the body. Stress doesn't start in the mind, it starts in the body. And if we can regulate, that will precede the reasoning. Any reasoning that we need to do, anything that happens up in the brain, we have to regulate before we can get to that point. And then bringing it back to like bring presence is physiological, not motivational. Being able to be present with our bodies is going to be a physiological advantage that we're going to have versus like listening to like a motivational talk or something. That'll motivate our mind and our brain and hit some good things up there, get some chemicals flowing, but it's not gonna sustain itself beyond like a couple few hours maybe.
And when you are, so as I said before, when you are oriented towards your body, you're oriented towards the internal, you're oriented towards safety. Because you will only be able to do that in conditions of safety. That's how we're biologically, that's how we evolved. When there's a threat, we are preparing to face that threat. And those threats look a lot different today than they do or than they did when we sort of evolved. There's no like lion coming to get us now. But our body still responds as though there is. And so when we orient towards the body, it's almost like a hack. You can say that you're telling yourself that you're safe. When we are in the mind, when we are when we're in our mind, when we're in our heads, we are orienting towards the past or the future. We're being pulled towards in one of these directions, even if it's just 30 seconds in the future or 30 seconds in the past. We're being pulled in these directions. We're orienting towards the external. And when we're orienting towards the external, part of us is orienting towards threat. So now think about how often we are orienting towards our body in a given day. It's not very often. This is how often we are participating in these stress loops, in these patterns of stress and tension and threat. Um, so
Yeah.
the body allows you to step out of that, even if it's just doing simply what we were talking about before, just feeling the motion of the breath in your chest. That's where we start um, in our trainings and in our men's groups and um, at our retreats and stuff like that. We start by slowing down, getting out of the normal pace of life and getting down into some of those deeper layers that we're always just kind of like rushing past. They're there and they're calling for our attention, but we're breezing by them on to fix the next thing.
Yeah. But at the same time, like as dads, we're told to be present all the time, right? We're always told, be present, be present, be present, be present all the time from everywhere that we go. Every episode that a lot of the listeners hear is like your presence in everything, presence, presence, presence. Right. But at the same time, like the reality of it is exactly what you're saying here. Like we're always thinking, either behind, we're thinking ahead. I mean, I can admit to that. Like I'm thinking, as you're going through like your thoughts that you're conveying to me, Duncan, it's like, okay, I'm thinking ahead to, okay, how might I respond? How could I turn this into something? What's my next segue? Right? I'm like present for a second, but then I'm thinking 30 seconds ahead. And then I tune back in and then I go back. And then I tune back in and I go back. And then I tune back in and then I go back. So I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. Right? Or I'm trying to go back 30 seconds to what you just said. Or I'm trying to be present with you, keep up. Or I'm trying to go ahead to make sure I keep up. So it's all the same things that all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's normal.
But
That, we need
yeah,
that.
it's super normal.
We need to cycle in and out of stress. Our system demands that. We
Mhm.
don't want to just be, not many of us are just sitting under a tree meditating and finding this place of oneness with the universe or whatever all day. Most of us are cycling in and out and um, getting activated and deactivating. And we do this, thousands and thousands of times a day. But what we want to make sure that we get probably more of than we're getting is some of that down-regulated, actual quiet, peaceful time. And
Mhm.
as a dad, being present, it can be hard because your kids want to throw you out of your, of your center. And that's part of it. As a dad, being present with your child is just allowing what's there to be there. And, guiding and governing and leading your family, but allowing what is actually there to be seen and to be welcomed and um, um, to be felt and to be experienced. And if that happens and it is and it something needs to change, then we can address it from a place of presence instead of a place of, well, I'm dysregulated, so then my kid is going to be dysregulated, and then everyone is kind of dysregulated, and then we're just going to make that normal and figure out how to kind of plow through anyway.
Yeah, how to live within that.
As a dad, when you learn to regulate your nervous system, your child automatically, because of co-regulation, your child automatically is going to start picking that up and be like, oh, dad is safe. Dad is being vulnerable. Dad is showing emotion that I haven't seen before. I can trust this because this is real. It's not about making everything comfortable and making everything, clean and pretty and fit into this vision that we have. It's about being real and allowing for what is actually there underneath to be seen and heard and experienced and shared.
Yeah, 100%. And so how can we access that though in the middle of a hard moment with our kids?
Yeah, amazing question, because this is all talk until the rubber meets the road, right? Like
Yeah, right.
until
It's like the listeners are hearing this and they're like, "Yeah, this all sounds great, Duncan."
right.
But when we're actually in the moment, what this is great. It's kind of like it's easier said than done, and it 100% is. But what's a simple way that we can address that or access that like presence in the middle of the hard moment with our kid?
Yeah, for sure. I want to preface this by saying, like, we have decades of training in this one direction. So turning the ship in a different direction, it takes practice. It's not something like, oh, I heard this tip from Duncan and now it's fixed. It's a practice. It's we have to physically try and mess it up and fail and keep going anyway. It's like going to the gym or doing yoga or doing running. The more you do it, the stronger you get, the better you get at it. So I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, my wife was away. She was just out of town for a few days, and it was me and my son, and I'm putting him to bed, and we're already past the bedtime that we like to hit. It's really pushed beyond. He's not really cooperating. I'm trying to put him to bed because I have to get to a class and there's people relying on me and it's looking like I'm going to be late. And he asks, he's doing everything except going to bed. And so I'm asking him, I'm doing like the nice thing. I'm like, please, buddy, please, we got to get in bed. It's time. It's time. Thank you. It's time. I'm trying the, quote unquote, sort of gentle parenting or whatnot. And then I just snap and I snap and I go like, I forget what I said. I don't want to curse, and I punched the wall and he immediately stopped what he was doing. He got really scared and he started crying and he clung on to my leg. And in that moment, I realized, like this is an old thing. This is an old pattern that I learned a long time ago that I'm now repeating to my son. And this is what I said I wouldn't, this is what I said I wasn't going to do. And so what I did in that moment, and this is after I already snapped. This isn't like avoiding the snap. This is after I've already done the quote unquote damage. I acknowledged how sad I was that I had done that. I acknowledged the feelings that I was having, and I got down on the floor with him and I cried. And I said, this isn't what I want. This isn't how I want to be. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I scared you. I want to do better than this. And he's really young at this point. He's like 4 or 5. And so, but he knows the kids know, they can feel it. And by acknowledging what is actually happening for me, I'm really sorry. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't how I want to be. I'm just getting really frustrated. I'm feeling really angry. I'm going to be late for my thing. And I let that kind of get the better of me. And I'm really sorry. And I love you and you're safe. And it took a few minutes, but we really quickly repaired. He felt that he could trust me because I was being real. I was having real acknowledgement of what was going on. And that allowed him to feel like he could trust me. And then we moved forward from there together. And since that moment, actually, like our relationship went like 2 levels deeper as of that night. We just got even closer. We got even more, connected. And it was one of the best things that's ever happened. And I'll never forget it because it was a cliff for me that was really hard to face. And I had to kind of get pushed over it in order to find, what was going on underneath. And so how I would break that down for your listeners is when you feel something rising up in you, pause, take a breath, acknowledge what it is, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm really pissed right now. I'm really, really angry. And I don't want this to come out of me in a way that is, we'll say just misaligned with who I want to be. But this is what's happening. And this is where this is headed. And then you can take it a step further and also be like, oh, okay, I see where this comes from. I see where I got this. My dad, with me, or, my mom or my teacher, or this is where I came about this pattern. This is where I came about this behavior. And that all helps. All that acknowledgement And all of that awareness helps to just kind of like, oh, okay, like the world's not ending. I'm just triggered. I'm just in that place where my threat response is running the show. And once I acknowledge that, then I'm able to sort of downregulate and approach things from a place of calm and truth, even if it doesn't fit into the box of the vision that you had for how things were supposed to go. Kind of got to get rid of that. We're talking
Yeah.
about what is.
Yeah. And it all kind of really sounds like the connection starts with sensing where it's coming from, sensing yourself getting there, sensing yourself feel triggered versus just like solving right away, right? Versus just jumping into the solving side of it. It's really just about connection, sensing it, and that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Not just jumping straight into the problem solving mode, the fixer mode that
Yeah.
we do as men.
And having the resilience to be honest about what you are sensing. You're like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
feeling something really old. I'm feeling something really deep. I'm feeling something that really uncomfortable. Um, and sensing, like, yes, using that um, you know, the body's capability to sense, and then training the fluency that we have that connects our mind to what is happening. So then we can use the information that the body is giving us before we start getting into like, well, here's what I think this should look like.
Yeah. And so kind of thinking about all this and putting it together, you mentioned even in your moment that you had that you mentioned, I didn't want to do this, it's not how I want to be. Are there any like specific emotional patterns that you see pass from father to son, even when dads swear they're never gonna repeat it?
Yeah, all of them. It's essentially like it becomes our default operating system. Um, and no matter how much we want to change it or think about changing it, we're not going to outthink our belief systems. Um, it's really, really important to train. And it's trainable because actually, to take it back even further, we're all born with the abilities to feel, to process, and to express, and they just get eroded over time. They get eroded by family and stress and trauma and society, culture. Um, so when we say like training your nervous system to downregulate, we're actually reawakening something that is old and ancient and original to who we are that we've just lost due to the modern situation. But um, to sort of more directly answer your question, it all gets passed down from father to son. Even the stuff that we say we're not going to do, it's baked in there. And so we have to go back down into those ingredients and separate them out and actually complete some of the things that have been left incomplete from early childhood. And I work with men to do that one-on-one. I also run an organization that does trainings and courses and retreats and men's groups. It's called MELD, MELD, which is the Men's Emotional Leadership Development. And it's a place to train your nervous system. It's a brotherhood of men doing the work, and it's not a philosophy. It's not political. It's not tips and hacks and tricks. It's a system. It's a practical system for just holding yourself steady under moments of stress.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, Duncan, let's jump into the dad zone and then let's start to wrap this thing up, shall we? All right, let's do this one. All right. So, in the dad zone is just 4 questions designed to kind of bring the podcast back down, bring us some fun at the end. Some people say it's the greatest part of the show. So that's different people say different things about it, but everyone's saying something about it from what I hear. So the first question in the dad zone is what or not what does pineapple go on pizza?
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not going to judge you if you are going to put pineapple on your pizza. Pizza is one of those things like whatever makes you happy, man. Pizza is about happiness. It's about joy. So if you're gonna put pineapple or asparagus or whatever you got going on, go for it. More power to you.
I think asparagus is weirder than pineapple
Yeah. Sure.
on
Yeah.
a pizza.
It's
That's
so
outlandish.
subjective. It's so subjective. These people out here doing pizza reviews, like, who cares? Just find pizza that you like
Yeah.
and get into it. Whatever it
At,
is. No
at
judgment.
least Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews when he does do them, at least it's just the same thing. It's just pizza, right? It's just cheese, it's just bread, sauce, and cheese every time. Nothing fancy about that. That's all it is
Yeah, he's
when he
got
does his
there's some
reviews.
purist kind of pizza thing. Like, if that's your thing, great.
Yeah.
Go for it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do you.
100%.
Authenticity. It's all about authenticity, whatever that is. If that's pineapple, I love you. Amazing.
Love you still, no matter what, even if you're a
Exactly.
psychopath. Who are 3 people, dead or alive, that you would invite over for a dinner party?
My God. Wow. Well, I live in Woodstock, or I live outside Woodstock, New York. And so I would definitely invite Jimi Hendrix.
You
I
mean
would
Morgan Freeman. I'm playing. I'm just playing, guys.
Jimi Hendrix, gosh, I would really love to hang out with Andre 3000, and I just 3 people? God,
Just 3 people.
let me see. My buddy Quinn, who I haven't seen in a while, he moved to Mexico. So it'd be me, Quinn, Jimi Hendrix, and Andre 3000. I think, and that would be a pretty sick band too, actually. We
I
would,
like it.
yeah, we could rip up some.
What is your guilty pleasure food or drink that you go out of your way to make sure you hide from the kids so they don't get none?
Well, this bakery near our house, shout out to Bread Alone, has this lemon poppy seed pound cake that's got this frosting on it. And it's not uncommon for me to just like have it in a little bag in my jacket pocket. And
Mm.
it just kind of, it's my little secret stash. You know, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I do get into some nice pound cake.
So I'm guessing there's a lot of solo trips down to the bakery.
It happens. It happens from time to time. I work from home. So I have the luxury of being able to say, I don't have any podcasts in the next hour. I'm going to pop into Bread Alone and see if they still got some lemon poppy seed pound cake.
Yeah, not everyone has a vice. Some people, they're pulling out smokes from their jacket pocket. Some
Yeah.
people are pulling out lemon poppy pound cake.
It's all, and all of those are, they're state regulation strategies. If you're smoking, it's because you want to regulate. If you're going after the poppy seed, or they also have a chocolate spelt pound cake that's pretty good. If you're going after that, it's a little bit of just
So what you're saying is you're in your jacket pocket, and one side you have the lemon, one side you have the chocolate,
on a
and
good
it's
day.
just on
Yeah.
a good day. No, that would be on a hard day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just need a little bit of both of these pound cakes today.
Oh, I never mixed them though. You gave me a good idea right there.
Looks like you're going to the bakery here soon. I'm just playing. Last question in the dad zone. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a young dad age 18 to 22 just starting out his fatherhood journey?
My goodness. There is no greater gift or teacher than becoming a dad. The best piece of parenting advice that I ever received was from my friend Aki. She's an artist. And she passed this down to me, and it really blew the doors off. And she said, make yourself happy. Especially as dads, but as parents, we are always sort of putting ourselves on the back burner. And when you put yourself on the back burner, that's what your kid learns how to do. If you can find a balance of making yourself happy, then your kid or your kids, they are going to learn how to make themselves happy, because they learn that from you, because kids learn by sort of absorbing who you are and how you take care of yourself. That's how they're going to take care of themselves. So find ways to make yourself happy. And the kicker is you get to be happy. You get to do something for yourself,
Darn.
and if it feels like it comes at the expense of them, that's okay. That's okay from time to time. It's okay, especially because I'm going to guess that most of the people listening to this they're in it. They're in the trenches. They're overwhelmed. That's kind of like, that's fatherhood. You are sort of, if you're a new dad, you are thrust into a different world of yourself.
Mhm.
And it's important to remember to take care of yourself, make yourself happy.
Yeah, I love it. Well, for the CTRA for this week for the listeners, your clear takeaway, reflection, and your action. The takeaway, and I think it was pretty well encapsulated there, is you don't need to fix yourself. You do need to understand your nervous system, however. And your reflection is, when was the last time your body told you something before your mouth did? And next, and your action for this week is, the next time you feel triggered, I invite you to pause, put a hand on your chest, take one slow exhale, and remember that that pause is parenting as well. That's okay to slow down and regroup yourself. And if this conversation resonated with you and you want to experience this work firsthand, you can check out MELD's core program, a 10-week experiential introduction to somatic men's work at meld.community/core. That's correct, right? Okay, perfect. And that'll be linked in the show notes as well. And Duncan, huge thanks to you for helping us reframe what's really happening inside of our bodies for so many dads. Fathers, remember, you're not failing. Your nervous system just learned its lessons early on before you had any say. And so remember that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. If this episode helped you understand yourself a little bit better, share it with another dad. And of course, make sure you're subscribed and do all the things you can to support the podcast. Subscribe, leave 5 stars, a follow, a comment, a thumbs up on whatever podcast catcher that you're on. All those little things help and support the show, and they're all free, and they only take a moment of your time. And so this was the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Make sure you throw away that juice box and that wrapper so the wife doesn't yell at you for not cleaning up after yourself again, for not after you watched your favorite podcast, and keep showing up. And we'll catch you next week right here on the Young Dad Podcast.